2018 anime film Her Blue Sky. The movie is set in Japan. Teenage couple Akane and Shino both plan to move to Tokyo after graduating high school. Shino is a guitarist in a band and wants to pursue music, while Akane is very supportive of him. During one practice, Akane's little sister Aoi says that she wants to be in a band too. Shino asks if she wants to be a guitarist like him, but she shakes her head and says she wants to be a bassist. Shino smiles and says it'll be cool for a woman to play the bass and that Aoi should join their band when she's older. The couple's plans to move to Tokyo don't push through when Akane and Aoi's parents die in a car crash. Aoi sees them arguing and yells at Shino, telling him that she and Akane will always be together. Akane decides to stay behind and the two of them break up. 13 years later, Aoi wants to be a famous musician and skip college. She's now an aspiring bassist and plans to work part-time while she tries to work on being famous. Akane and Aoi later drive to a meeting about an upcoming music festival in town organized by Shino's former bandmate Machinko. In the kitchen, Sugu, Machinko's son, asks why Aoi doesn't want to join the festival even though she likes to play music. Aoi says that the event is more for attracting tourists to the town rather than enjoying music. After the meeting, the two leave on the way to the hall where Shino's band used to practice, as Aoi now uses it to practice as well. Machinko shows his intentions of dating Akane. Aoi tells him that she wouldn't let her sister date anyone who's divorced, to which Machinko cries out that his wife cheated. Aoi turns around to leave, but then Machinko asks her if she remembers Shino. She stops and says that she barely does before walking away. In the hall, Tsugu starts to talk about the possibility of his dad and Aoi's sister dating, but Aoi immediately stops him, saying she doesn't want to talk about it there. She then has a flashback of when Shino was teaching her how to play bass. He notices that she has a mole in her eye, and he says that he also has one. He then says that that is a sign that they're going to become famous musicians in the future, calling the two of them eyeball stars. Behind them, Akane laughs at how silly it sounds, much to Aoi's and Shino's protests. The next day, Akane talks about the upcoming music festival with a coworker while they're in the break room. Machinko approaches her and says that he's already done the necessary paperwork to have her assigned to help in the event. Before he could explain further, he's called for a meeting and runs off. Aoi tells Akane about Machinko's crush on her and that she shouldn't get his hopes up. Akane in return asks for Aoi to reconsider going to college, but Aoi only gets annoyed and reminds her that she's promised not to bother her with that anymore before entering their house. In one practice session, Aoi stops playing when another person tells her to stop and criticizes the way she plays. She looks at him and realizes that it is the teenage version of Shino. Terrified, she runs out of the hall and back home where she was about to tell Akane about what happened. Akane reacts coldly when Aoi mentions Shino's name, so she decides not to tell her the full truth. Aoi tells her instead that she was thinking about where Shino is nowadays. Akane tells her that they haven't talked since Shino left for Tokyo and that she doesn't know if he's alive or not. Aoi then contemplates whether the Shino she saw at the hall was a ghost, seeing that he hasn't aged at all. Machinko then arrives and asks them why they are still at home, and reminded them about the event that they needed help with. The two sisters are confused and Machinko apologizes for not having explained it before, but says that they need to hurry. They go to the train station and hold a folded banner. Machinko explains that the main guest for the music festival was arriving that night, even though the event is still a week away. A truck parks behind them and opens up to a band playing, with the lead singer being the main guest. They turn around and Akane freezes while Machinko quickly unfolds the banner. Aoi then realizes that the guitarist of the band is Shino. After seeing the now adult Shino still alive, Aoi brings Tsugu to the hall and they conclude that the Shino they saw at the hall isn't exactly a ghost. The teenage Shino confronts them and asks who they are before stopping as he hears Tsugu call Aoi by her name. Aoi confirms her identity by showing him her eyeball mole and calling herself Eyeball Star Number 2. Once they calm down, he explains that after his argument with Akane, he stayed behind in the hall and fell asleep. He then woke up to Aoi playing the bass. Tsugu then suggests that he might be a living ghost that emerged due to the unresolved feelings caused by Akane and Shino's breakup. Shino then declares that he wants to become a famous musician before going back home to be with Akane. Aoi tells him that his future self did become a professional musician. Excited, teenage Shino tries to leave the hall but is stopped by an invisible barrier. The three of them figure out that maybe if the adult Shino and Akane could get back together, then the teenage Shino would disappear. Meanwhile, Akane and Machinko are out at dinner with the main guest and his accompanying band, including the adult Shino. The guest asks if Akane and Shino are together, to which Machinko nervously laughs. Shino then begins to get sick after drinking too much, and Akane drives him to his hotel room. Inside, Shino invites Akane for a drink, but she refuses. He then pulls her back and makes a move on her. Akane rejects him by flipping him over, and then she leaves. Akane comes home with Aoi waiting on the couch while she looks up ghosts on the internet. Akane then offers that they sleep in the same room again, saying that they haven't done it in a while. Before going to sleep, Aoi asks what Shino was like before, but Akane dodges the question. The next day, Chika, Aoi's schoolmate, thinks that she has a boyfriend who picks her up from school every day. Chika then badgers Aoi to introduce her to her boyfriend's friends. Akane then arrives to pick up Aoi, and Chika realizes her mistake, but still goes along with them. They drive to the hospital where the guest band's bassist and drummer are sick due to food poisoning. Akane then suggests that Machinko and Aoi replace them, to which the main guest agrees. Adult Shino mocks the two and says that he doesn't want to be involved with amateurs. Aoi and Machinko then play for him, and the rest of the band admire their performance. Later that night, teenage Shino praises Aoi for being a backup for a professional band. Before they could start practicing, Akane arrives and they quickly hide Shino before he could be seen. She gives him some snacks before leaving. Shino then goes on to say how beautiful Akane is even though she's now old. He also says that being stuck in the hall makes him bored and asks to borrow Tsugu's phone for the night to play a game. Aoi gives him her phone instead, as only Akane and Tsugu call her. The next day, while practicing for the festival, adult Shino continues to belittle Aoi and Machinko. He tells Aoi that women really aren't meant to play bass, which is the opposite of what he said earlier in the movie. A group of girls arrive and gather over Shino. Chika takes a video of the entire practice up to that moment and sends it to Aoi's phone, which is with teenage Shino. He watches the video that night and gets angry at how different he turned out to be. Despite that, teenage Shino continues to be supportive of Aoi during her practices in the hall, and she soon realizes that she's falling in love with him. Because of this, she agrees to help Machinko get with Akane to keep Shino from disappearing. But Machinko declines her offer, saying that he intentionally invited the main guest to bring Shino home. While setting up, Akane gets to talk with Shino's current bandmate and finds out that he already had a solo debut but only played one song. Meanwhile, Tsugu confronts teenage Shino and tells him that Aoi is his first crush and that Shino is his rival. Akane eventually finds Shino and asks him to sing his debut song called Her Blue Sky. They continue to laugh together for a while and Aoi sees them. When Shino leaves, Aoi is surprised to see Akane break down and cry. Aoi realizes that she's being selfish by wanting to have teenage Shino stay, and she runs to the hall to confess her feelings. She also says that despite that, she'll work on bringing the adult Shino and Akane together to make her sister happy. The following morning, the main guest is fussing over his lost pendant. They find out that he probably lost it in a tunnel up in Hino. Akane volunteers to get it back. Meanwhile, adult Shino goes to the hall to pay a visit and meets teenage Shino, much to his shock. Akane arrives at the tunnel and goes in before a landslide occurs. The scene cuts to the event venue where news of the landslide spreads. When Aoi hears that it happened somewhere in Hino, she freaks. She then tries to call Akane's phone, but no one's answering. Aoi then runs away from the venue. Meanwhile, adult Shino is still confused. Teenage Shino asks him if he's there for the Akane special, which is their old guitar that adult Shino left behind in the hall. Teenage Shino begins to taunt him before Aoi arrives and tells him about the landslide and Akane. While Teenage Shino is concerned, adult Shino seems calm and unaffected about the whole situation. His younger self becomes angry and asks him why he's not doing everything he can to save Akane. Disappointed with his older self, Teenage Shino struggles to break through the barrier. As he does, the Akane special strings begin to vibrate. Aoi helps Teenage Shino and tries to pull him out. The strings eventually snap and he breaks free before quickly grabbing Aoi and rushing to Akane. Adult Shino follows after them. Akane is then shown to be alive, although trapped as the entrance had been covered. She also finds the pendant before Teenage Shino arrives and admires how calm she is despite the situation. The two talk as adult Shino arrives outside the tunnel. Teenage Shino manages to break the two of them out of the tunnel and Akane quickly rushes to her sister. Aoi offers to walk home while the two Shinos and Akane get in the car. Teenage Shino falls asleep while adult Shino and Akane talk about what's going to happen with them. Shino says that he's not going to give up on his dreams or on Akane this time. Akane smiles and tells him that she should start making rice balls with his favorite filling. Teenage Shino smiles before disappearing as the two rekindle their relationship. Meanwhile, Aoi screams and cries as she runs home due to the heartbreak of losing Teenage Shino. She pauses and wipes her tears before slowly walking and muttering about how blue the sky is. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, and leave a comment with what anime movie you'd like me to recap next.